ॐ सहनाववतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। We are reading from the book Meditation and Spiritual Life by Swami Yatiswarananda. We are in chapter 31, which is titled Spiritual Unfoldment. Next section, don't play with the serpent. Now here is a point for all spiritual seekers to note. Those who practice spiritual disciplines without physical and mental purity are not only wasting their energy from the spiritual point of view, but are also running the risk of gathering too much energy, which, flowing through the worldly channels, might intensify their worldly life, including sex life, and thus harm them greatly. Remember Sri Ramakrishna's parable of the farmer who worked hard to irrigate his field and water his crops, but later found that all the water was being lost through rat holes. So this is from the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna, translated by Swami Nikhilananda, published in 1974, page 578. So worldly desires are the holes through which the energy flows out into worldly channels in the case of a worldly man. When I was in Switzerland, I once visited a well-known psychologist. He had a number of students to whom he taught yoga. I saw his wife painting a picture of the, quote, serpent power, unquote, and I asked him, quote, is it not dangerous to play with the serpent? He laughed and said, oh no, Swami, people don't take it seriously. But sometimes some take it seriously and try to awaken the Kundalini without undergoing the purification of mind. The practice of concentration without sufficient purity is dangerous. If the energy that is increased through concentration cannot move along the spiritual channel, it may express itself outwardly in the form of violent passions in an extrovert, harming him as well as others. In the introvert, the gathered up energy may not find an outward expression. In that case, it may form an awful whirlpool in the individual, shattering his nerves and mind and making him a complete wreck. In some cases, as the mind is stirred through meditation, all the good and evil things lying hidden in it may come to the surface with tremendous force and bring about a physical and mental collapse. Those impure souls who want to play with the quote unquote serpent always come to grief. In some others, again, the stored up energy may manifest itself as cheap psychic powers such as clairvoyance, thought reading, and such powers which make those persons egotistic and spiritually bankrupt. In some cases, again, there may be a partial awakening of the latent power. The spiritual power may rise to a higher center but may fall down with disastrous results, stimulating worldly desires. But for a sincere soul, following the moral disciplines along with the practice of prayer, japa, and meditation, there is absolutely nothing to be afraid of. For him, spiritual life is very safe. Next section, spiritual unfoldment is seldom uniform. One of the difficult problems that every aspirant has to face is that spiritual progress is seldom uniform. Spiritual unfoldment does not take place in a straight line. After reaching a higher center, the aspirant may find the way closed. He gets stuck at that center and his energies get sidetracked. He may take a long time before he finds his way out again. Sometimes the aspirant finds himself going round and round without making any progress. These intervals or quote unquote dry periods, described as quote dark nights of the soul unquote by the great Christian mystic Saint John of the Cross, are usually unavoidable in every aspirant's life. But their intensity and duration can be reduced if the aspirant follows the moral path with steadiness. Purity of mind, strict regularity, and devotion ensure smooth spiritual progress. The description of the rise of the Kundalini appears to be simple and easy enough. But actually it is all very, very difficult. Out of 1,000 people who struggle for it, only one may get the awakening, as the Gita says. There's a reference here to Bhagavad Gita, chapter 7 or Adhyaya 7, verse number 3. Manushyanam sahasreshu kaschidyatati siddhaye yatatamapi siddhanam kaschinma vetti tatvatah. Among thousands of people, a rare person makes effort for moksha. Even among those seekers making effort, only a rare person comes to know me in reality. But there is no need to get discouraged. From the way most people live, we find that it is only good that in their case the Kundalini awakens very slowly or does not awaken at all. Most people are not at all ready for the rise. They cannot face the tremendous reactions that it produces. In fact, in the beginning of one's spiritual life, it is better to forget all about Kundalini and think only about God. Let the love for your Ishta Devata absorb all your attention and energies. Leave the Kundalini to Him. He will look after your spiritual welfare. God will grant you awakening at the right time. As I have repeatedly said, it is better to follow the path of synthesis, a combination of karma, jnana and bhakti. Let selfless work go hand in hand with your meditation that purifies and strengthens the mind. Practice self-analysis and make the mind detached and calm, and then japa does the rest. When properly done, japa creates an inner harmony which gradually flows along the sushumna, making it active. The best means of awakening of Kundalini. Whatever be our spiritual path, be it Hindus, Buddhists, Christians or Sufis, the three stages we all have to pass through are purification, meditation, and experience of the divine reality or Godhead. Here arises the question, how are we to begin meditation with a view to awakening our spiritual consciousness? One of us asked our spiritual teacher, Swami Brahmananda, Sir, how can the Kundalini, the latent spiritual consciousness, be awakened? This is what the Swami replied. According to some, there are special exercises by which the Kundalini can be awakened, but I believe it can best be awakened by the practice of japa and meditation. The practice of japa is specially suited to this present age, and there is no spiritual practice easier than this, but meditation must accompany the repetition of the mantra. So the footnote here, see Swami Prabhavananda, The Eternal Companion, published in 1971, page 275. There are various ways of looking upon God, as Father or Mother, as effulgent light and so on. Making the heart the center of your consciousness, think of the Divine Spirit there in any form you like. Repeat the divine name or a holy text, dwelling on the divine aspect it represents. This is a simple meditation, but later on it leads to real meditation, which helps in bringing about the union between the individual soul and the Supreme Spirit. The holy word and the holy thought have great power. As one repeats the divine name and meditates on the divine spirit, one should feel that the holy vibrations and thoughts are making one's body, senses, mind, and ego purer and purer. When this is done with intensity, the breath becomes rhythmic. The vital energy becomes harmonious. The mind becomes pure and calm. The ego tends to become cosmocentric. This leads to spiritual unfoldment stage by stage. The repetition of the divine name, accompanied by meditation, produces a divine music which clears the spiritual channel, awakens the spiritual sleeping serpent power, and enables it to move along to the vitalized higher centers. Next section, the ascent of Kundalini. As consciousness rises higher and higher, it moves along both the horizontal and vertical lines. The soul and the oversoul are drawn closer together. This is symbolized in the Upanishads by the analogy of two birds of beautiful plumage who reside in the top and bottom branches of the same tree. So there's a footnote here. See Mundaka Upanishad, Mantra 3.1.1-3 and the Shvetashvatara Upanishad, Mantra 4.6-7.7. The lower bird looks up and at last realizes that they are one. To use yogic phraseology, the lower bird is the individual soul sitting at the base of the spine. The upper bird is the Supreme Spirit sitting in the 1,000-petal lotus in the brain. Individual consciousness flowing along the spiritual channel of Sushumna reaches the topmost mind and realizes its union with the Supreme Spirit. This is the ascent of the soul to the highest spiritual point and experience. Most souls do not return from this state to the domain of phenomena again. But as Sri Ramakrishna says, some sages are pleased to come down from that spiritual light for the good of mankind. Footnote here is from the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna on pages 82, 216 and 301. Regarding the experiences connected with each center or chakra, let us see what Sri Ramakrishna, the greatest modern authority on the subject, has to say from his own personal experience. After great effort and spiritual practice, the Kundalini is awakened. According to the yogis, there are 3 nerves in the spinal column, Ida, Pingala and Sushumna. Along the Sushumna are 6 loters or centers, the lowest being known as the Muladhara. Then comes successfully Swadhisthana, Manipura, Anahata, Vishuddha and Agnya. So again, there are 6 lotus centers, the lowest being known as the Muladhara. Then comes successfully Swadhisthana, Manipura, Anahata, Vishuddha and Agnya. These are the 6 centers. The Kundalini, when awakened, passes through the lower centers and comes to the Anahata, which is at the heart. It stays there. At that time, the mind of the aspirant is withdrawn from the 3 lower centers. He feels the awakening of divine consciousness and sees light. In mute wonder, he sees that radiance and cries out, "What is this? What is this?" After passing through the 6 centers, the Kundalini reaches the 1,000-petal lotus known as the Sahasrara, and the aspirant goes into Samadhi. According to the Vedas, these centers are called Bhumi or planes. There are 7 such planes. The center at the heart corresponds to the 4th plane of the Vedas. According to the Tantra, there is in the center a lotus called Anahata with 12 petals. The center known as Vishuddha is the 5th plane. This center is at the throat and has a lotus with 16 petals. When the Kundalini reaches this plane, the devotee longs to talk and hear only about God. Conversations on worldly subjects, on quote, women and gold, unquote, causes him great pain. He leaves the place where people talk of these matters. Then comes the 6th plane corresponding to the center known as Agnya. This center is located between the eyebrows and has a lotus with 2 petals. When the Kundalini reaches it, the aspirant sees the form of God. But still there remains a slight barrier between the devotee and God. It is like a light inside a lantern. You may think you have touched the light, but in reality you cannot because of the barrier of glass. And last of all is the 7th plane, which according to Tantra is the center of the 1,000-petal lotus. When the Kundalini arrives there, the aspirant goes into Samadhi. In that lotus dwells Satchidananda Shiva, the Absolute. There Kundalini, the awakened power, unites with Shiva. This is known as the union of Shiva and Shakti. When the Kundalini rises to the Sahasrara and the mind goes into Samadhi, the aspirant loses all consciousness of the outer world. He can no longer retain his physical body. If milk is poured into his mouth, it runs out again. In that state, the life breath lingers for 21 days and then passes out. Entering the black waters of the ocean, the ship never comes back. But the Ishvara Kotis, such as the incarnations of God, can come down from this state of samadhi. They can descend from this exalted state because they like to live in the company of devotees and enjoy the love of God. God retains in them the quote, ego of knowledge, unquote, or the quote, ego of devotion, unquote, so that they may teach men. Their minds move between the sixth and seventh planes. They run a boat race back and forth, as it were, between these two planes. So all this is from the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna, pages 456 to 457. These fully illumined souls see the one spirit shining in all beings and are full of love and compassion for all people. It is they who bring us the message of the superconscious. Their whole life is spent in guiding people along the spiritual path. Utterly free from all impurities and selfishness, ever immersed in the consciousness of the Supreme Spirit, these great men live for the good of the world, setting unique examples. They are witnesses to the spiritual destination of man, the divinization of the human soul. Let us follow in their footsteps.